who we have in the house. Mark Packer, I thought, you'd maybe oversleep, staying up late watching some football, but I guess that's not the case.
Since the last time you and I got together to talk a little college football, number 2 is lost. Number 3 is lost.
Yes.
Number 4 is lost. And last night, number 5 lost.
I mean, have you ever seen anything like this?
Crazy. Last week, number 2, 3, and 4 all going down on the same day. The only time that's ever happened in college football was October 19th, 1985. Why do I remember that date? Because it's my birthday. Other than that, I would never know that.
I wasn't even born yet.
How about that? I know, of course not. Of course
not.
Whatever.
No.
25.
No.
How are you?
Yeah. So what did you think about surprised that Houston came out and made a statement? I mean,
That was ugly.
It was ugly for Louisville.
It was. Houston, we got a problem. That would be Louisville talking. Their players whined and complained on Twitter when the poll came out by the committee on Tuesday.
Yeah.
A lot of times coaches say, I don't want my kids on social media. That's exactly why. Lamar Jackson's still a great player. But, man, they were a train wreck last night. 11 sacks. That game was over really on the opening kickoff that they fumbled, and Houston jumped them like nobody's business. And that's a Houston team that knocked off Oklahoma to start the season. They finally got healthy. They're unbeaten at home. Tom Herman's a great young coach. It's going to be a hot property in terms of maybe somebody else.
Sure.
But for Louisville, they're not technically out of the playoffs, but they need Wake Forest to knock off Clemson tomorrow night.
Well, let's transition into that game. There's going to be a lot of Louisville fans rooting for Clemson, huh?
No question about it. It's their only way in. If Clemson wins, they punch their ticket into the Atlantic Division. Of course, the Tigers coming off one of those upsets last week, losing at home to Pittsburgh. But if Clemson wins tomorrow night at Wake Forest, and the Deacs defense is pretty good, they punch their ticket to Orlando.
You talked to Dabo Swinney. What is the feeling of the team here coming off that loss to Pitt and now having to make sure they win this weekend?
I talked to him yesterday on the show, and he said their team's mad. They're disappointed, and they have had a great week of practice. So, listen, they know what's at stake. But, of course, they also knew what was at stake last week on that play right there. Hey, you get a first down, the game's over with, you punch your ticket. Didn't happen. So, got to take it on the road to a Wake Forest team, like I said. Plays good defense. Wake's been in the games at Florida State, at Louisville. Those are close fourth-quarter games. The Deacs defense can keep this close, but Clemson should be incredibly motivated, not only to win, to move on, but I think even what happened last night watching Louisville, another wake-up call for everybody in the country.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to the Big Ten.
Yep.
We don't do this a lot. Go to the Big Ten.
They're the best league. I know you hate to, and you don't want to hear about it. They got 4 teams in the top 8. It's Ohio State, it's Michigan, it's Wisconsin, and Penn State. They have really replaced the SEC in the conversation of dominating.
This year.
It matters. I want a history lesson.
Well, I think we got to look at the body of work for the conferences to have that. But this year,
I could agree with you.
The Big Ten, obviously, very dominant. Let's talk about Michigan real quick. They're going to be hosting Indiana. They're coming off, like you said, one of the upsets over the weekend. That was big.
Yep. I talked to Kirk Ferentz, the Iowa head coach. There they are, upsetting Michigan by 1 point at the buzzer. Hey, it's still going to come down to this. Ohio State and Michigan need to win out. This time next week, we're talking Michigan, Ohio State in a monster football game. But, hey, that's a really good football team. Listen, the cool thing about November is you've got to close the deal. There is pressure on everybody, including Alabama, who's on cruise control with the SEC's Cupcake Weekend. But the pressure to close the deal is so critical in November.
You think we'll see a Penn State, Wisconsin Big Ten championship?
It could very well happen, and that's why I think the committee's got their biggest issue is the next 2 weeks trying to figure out what happens in the Big Ten. Do they get 1 in? Maybe they get 2 in.
Yeah.
Go figure.
All right. We'll see what happens. That's why we love college football. We'll be back after this.